Joel Feldman, and he designed and created this entire campaign nationally. Over 60,000 high school students last April has seen this presentation. So I'd really like to know your feedback at the end of the presentation, what you thought of it, how to make it better. In life a little bit is I went to West Point and I flew attack helicopters for about 7 years. But this is more important to me than really anything I have done yet in life, because I feel like I'm able to change at least one life at every presentation. Who can tell me what they think distracted driving is? Go ahead.
Anytime your eyes are on the road.
Like a black. You're black. It's any activity. Driving, what you're here today, and you're going to be reminded of, is that driving is a primary focus. And you have to put all of your attention into it. So can you give me a couple of examples of types that hasn't been mentioned? Texting. Eating. Go ahead. Changing music. Good. Talking. Go ahead. Makeup. Good. Sleeping is definitely distracting. Good. This is my favorite. You guys make a waffle in the middle. There are three main types, and some may be obvious when you talk about it. But the first one is manual, which is you just clearly have something going on in the car, someone's in the back, somebody's showing you a picture, you see something cool that you're passing you've never seen before. So there's something very direct right in front of you. The second is visual. And the third is the one that I think most people don't really recognize, and it's cognitive. To actually, when you're on the phone, even if you're hands-free, and you feel like you're dedicating all of your energies towards being a good driver. If you're actually holding a conversation, science has proven that that's tremendously distracting. How many people in the audience are actually driving right now? Just raise your hand. How many in the audience think that they'll be driving in the next couple of 3 years? Pretty much everyone. I will tell you that I personally have missed an exit. I've gone back to home, like when I was supposed to be going to work, because I was holding an intense conversation. And it's the conversation that totally derails you from thinking about what it is that you're actually doing. Okay. Just an example. Maybe that's why the bus fares in Buffalo are only like maybe 25 cents. It's just really, go back one. It's just impossible to be a good driver if your eyes are not on the road. We're going to talk about how easily it can something in the vehicle, can take you away from that primary focus. Who drives like this? I used to drive like this. Before I met Joel Feldman, I run a business. I own a private company. I feel like I'm pretty busy. I love my kids. And I didn't think one thing about answering a good friend, getting on a phone call. And so it's something that becomes a habit very early on. And there used to not be cell phones, I know you don't know that. And getting that feeling of, I'm able to multitask. I mean, everybody in their life is telling you multitasking is a good thing. Multitasking when you're driving is not a good thing. Raise your hand if your parents text or drive distracted. It's kind of fun throwing them on the bus, isn't it? Go ahead. Who can tell me what they think a good role model is? Did everybody hear that? Someone who does something well that you want to emulate, that you want to copy, right? Finger black. Is there such a thing as a bad role model?
You don't want your friends to be annoyed, so you text. You're on your way. Five seconds is the average time your eyes are off the road while texting while driving. Make sure you get where you're going.
Your friends probably text and drive, and you probably care about them. It's really easy to be empowered and say something, to be a leader, to be that role model, and to say, "Hey, let's get where we're going, and then we'll talk about it." Just some examples. I'm not going to diamond you out in here, but I would imagine that a good percentage of people that are already driving, have dabbled, or they do it habitually. Even if you have your phone set on vibrate and it's right there in your lap, and you're driving, say, somewhere, you may not even want to be distracted, but it's just so habitual, like that little ring or whatever it is that someone's communicating with me. What is that? I don't want to miss it. I want to be responsive to the people that are communicating with me. And so that there's a real conflict there. That's example. Go ahead. Who can tell me what the legal limit? Blood alcohol content. Drunk driving.
It's actually 0.05.
0.08. Black. Change. Big or black?
It's 0.05.
Black. Big. That's pretty basic. I mean, everybody in here kind of gets that. We don't want to drink and drive. That's really, really unsafe. Right. How does using a cell phone compare in terms of delayed reaction time? Someone who has a 0.08 blood alcohol level has 4 times the probability of being in a crash. So talking on your cell phone, just talking on your cell phone is about the same as being at the legal limit of blood alcohol content. Texting is twice as bad. When you're actually texting, it's like being twice the legal limit. Let me show you why. There's studies for this. Go ahead. The average is about 5 seconds, 4.6 seconds. Who can give me 3 guesses real quick, no wristbands this time, on how far you think you travel in a vehicle in 4.5 seconds? 55 miles an hour. Half a mile?
half a mile.
All right, go ahead. You go to an entire football field. Because if you could, I mean, is there anybody that's not ever been on a football field? If you go to the end zone and you look down at the uprights at the end of the field, that's pretty far. I can't throw a football that far. But that's how far your vehicle will go while you have your eyes down, just saying, hey, I'll be right there. Right. We obviously don't text on the football field, right? This is an example of people have heard the whole concept of this is what your brain looks like, this is what your brain looks like on drugs, or that kind of thing. You know, driving alone, you know, what's going on in your brain to give you the ability to function and be a good driver. And then what it actually looks like while you're listening to a sentence. And go to the next one. And so there's a lot more going on cognitively when you're just holding a conversation. I think people take that for granted. This is a really important part of the presentation because we all, I think, after maybe the presentation, maybe you've heard before that, you know, what you do yourself when you're in a vehicle, and you can control that and that. But if you're just sending a text message, you know, to a good friend or mom and dad or whatever, that can have an impact. Right?
Ashley would text hundreds of messages every day. That was the way we kept in touch. We would definitely text more than we talked.
Ryan was a multitasker extraordinaire. She could text better than anyone I know. She could be having one conversation with me, completely focused, while having a text conversation with somebody else.
You do something 7,000 times a month, you tend to learn where those 26 letters are.
We would be at school, at home, movies, bowling, driving,
Not even looking at her phone,
just simple,
insignificant.
Useless, whatever it may be.
about anything and everything.
Just a way to pass the
It
time.
didn't matter where we were constantly texting. This is my sister. She was looking at my message that I had just sent her. When she looked up, she had clipped the median on the left-hand side of the road. Her truck flipped, and as it was flipping, she was actually ejected through the driver's side door. And she landed in the ditch about 300 feet from her truck. People will tell you over and over again, it's not your fault. But knowing that you were the person that she was talking to when she was killed. Just like having a highway patrol officer write in a report that a text message sent at 12:05 is the reason that she is dead is not something that will ever go away. If I could talk to her one last time, I would just say I'm sorry. This is her cell phone that she used in the accident. 4 little letters. That's what killed her.
One of the things I'd like you to do, among many things, other than just keep talking about this after this morning, is when you leave here, probably you're not allowed to have your cell phones in school, but when you get your backpacks, you load up in the car, I want you to actually look at what the last text message that you got and ask yourself whether it was worth dying for. Next. What are some things that we can do if you're in a car and people are distracted. Sometimes it's very, very challenging, especially if the person is a role model, it's a parent, it's, someone who drives you all the time. What are some things that you can say that really is going to shake them up? And probably the best story that I have is a kid in Houston came up to me after a presentation. Parents tell me all the time that I'm the most important thing in their lives. And so I just told them that and said, if I am, and I'm in the back of the car, well, why are you doing that? And totally changed the culture in that family, and it forced them to sit down and talk about how to drive safely. But, speaking up to your friends, it's always, maybe sometimes it's a hard thing, but maybe something you get from this presentation is it gives you some examples. Does anybody have an idea that would work? Whether it be a signal or saying something that you'd be confident about. Saying to a good friend, someone that's been there a lot. Anybody? Go ahead. Hey. That was probably the slowest response this morning. It's profound. Thank you. But when it's your friends, I gotta think that's probably, it may be the hard thing for you guys to do, to break that barrier and to touch them or just say, hey, you know what, I know somebody, etc. Well, obviously we're talking about consequences. This is actually a real case. I was arrested and sent to prison for killing a man in, I believe, it was North Carolina. A lot of people think that this isn't necessarily an epidemic, and I'm here to tell you that there are more people lost on the freeways and highways and in cities than any of us can imagine. Part of this presentation is one of the things that why I'm so passionate about coming to schools and volunteering is because it's so prevalent. The fact that I did it, I don't want my daughter who's 15 to start driving and to learn those habits because it can be absolutely life altering.
This is a face of distracted driving. This is Casey Feldman. Casey was a daughter, granddaughter, sister, niece, cousin, and friend. She was kind, caring, had a great sense of humor, lived life to its fullest, and was loved by many.
She was so funny and so vibrant and so beautiful in every way.
She was smart, she was intelligent, she had goals for herself, she was really grounded, and she was someone that you knew would grow up to be somebody special, somebody important to other people.
Casey's life ended on July 17th, 2009. She was struck and killed by a distracted driver while she was crossing the street in a crosswalk. He had taken his eyes off the road for just a few seconds.
It was the first time that I ever lost somebody, a friend, and someone my age, and it made me realize that could have easily been me, that could have been my sister, it could have been anybody.
Before Casey's accident, I drove distracted, and I would let people who were driving me be distracted.
I know in high school, rushing around to activities. It'd be eating in the car, doing makeup in the car. I actually wrote a speech in the car once. I was changing the radio station while backing out of a parking spot, and I hit a utility pole. I would take my eyes off the road to do makeup, to text message, to use my phone. I think definitely as a teenager, when you're first driving, you do feel invincible, and driving can become a secondary task for whatever you're doing. You're basically operating a weapon. I think that people need to realize that they're operating something that has the power to change like thousands of lives.
No matter what it is you're trying to do in the car, it's not worth it.
When you're driving, it's not a secondary task, it is the only task you should be doing.
We must learn from Casey's death that as young people we are not invincible.
And we learn that it just doesn't happen to other people, it happened to Casey, someone that we love and miss very much.
I think of Casey lying on the roadway after her accident, and when the police officer asked her how it occurred, she said, "I want my mom." And I wasn't there to comfort her in those last moments. What will it take for us to change the way we drive?
I've stopped having meals in the car.
I put one CD in and I just don't change it. Make sure my purse is in the back seat now. My phone is in the back seat.
If I'm driving, that's the only thing I'm doing.
This is the picture I have in my car of Casey to remind me to keep my eyes and mind on the road. You could do the same with a picture of somebody that you love and care about.
So it's clearly a choice. We're going to go through an exercise that we've got to do. I've alluded to this morning. It's like, what can you and your family, taking this home, if you can become an ambassador for this program, for your friends and your family, and people that aren't in this auditorium this morning, that's the most powerful thing. And you have to say, going through the exercise on the piece of paper, some of the things that you can do are listed right there. Drive without texting. Drive without making or receiving calls or texts. Before you start driving, let people know when you'll arrive. Before you put it in drive, leave it in park. Say, I'll be there in 15. Get in the habit of setting yourself up. Turn your cell phone off, not even vibrate, or put it. This is the best one I got. It was in Chicago last year. Is put it in the back seat. You can't get to it. But pull over. This is one of the best ones, and I do this with my kids now. I give them my cell phone and say, "Hey, respond to that. Just tell me, what came in. If it's really, really important." You can deputize someone in the back seat or someone in the passenger seat. Look this up. Change the music, change the navigation, so you don't have to do that. Wait until you finish driving. So your parent's signature is on the bottom. Wait until you finish. Makeup. Wait until they finish driving. There's actually an app now that you can look up, download it on your phone, and then it will block incoming text if your phone is physically moving more than 25 miles an hour. I don't know if that limit, but the technology's out there to support you in your own personal safety because it is a tremendous distraction. And then obviously asking your driver. And it is ultimately, if you see somebody who is distracted driving, it's absolutely it's a selfish action. And to turn that into a positive and changing that culture, it should be a good takeaway today. So taking the pieces of paper, does anybody have any questions? I always give 3. If anyone's interested, intrigued, go. Is there something you can do that's more drastic? Or you do not drive it. You can have an idea about how to make it stronger. Before you brought it up. You don't have to return these pieces of paper, but I would really appreciate it if you would. And if there's a high school that you want to recommend that I go and do this presentation to, I'd love to hear from you about it.